Hello and welcome to Around the Ice on Fantasy and Frames, a hockey podcast. With me tonight is Toast and Aaron Tometich. I'm JT, your host. We're talking centers tonight, guys. So we're going through breaking down some of the divisions. We broke down some defensemen last week. This week we're going over centers. I will give everybody a little heads up. We're going to talk about just center eligible guys tonight. So if guys can play center, right wing, left wing, we're going to save those for our wing show coming up. But we're going to talk about just strictly centers tonight. But before we get into that, how you guys doing?
Doing good, JT. I tell you what, I gave you and Aaron a listen last week at the podcast on defensemen. It was awesome. It was kind of nice to actually be a fan for a change and listen to a great show. You guys went an hour, and it was like really, really good. I was like, man, should I even come back? It was pretty darn good. I'm like, man, this is a better show than actually when I'm on. So hopefully I can actually add a little bit of a flavor to the show this week. Last week I was actually moving my son down to SIU, so Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, where he is a elementary ed major and a pole vaulter on the track and field team as a freshman. And then moved in my daughter to Illinois State University. She's a junior there, and she's a nursing student. So man, I tell you what, it was hot. Muggy, had a little bit of swamp ass going. Got everybody moved. Slept pretty much all weekend. We had a fantasy football draft, JT, at your restaurant there on Sunday night. I had so many picks. It was complete domination on my part. I couldn't screw it up because I had so many picks from trades last year. It was unbelievable. So now we're coming back in the hockey, man, and I can't wait. Aaron, you've been doing the countdown, right? It's been, I don't know, are we at the 48 to 50 days, somewhere around there?
You know what? I just saw somebody with rocking a 50. Yeah. So I think you're right. 49-50. Yeah.
So Corey Crawford away from opening puck drop. I like it.
Yeah, one of those nice slow goalie numbers. I don't care what sport it is. If you got a number with a like 35, it's just I don't know, a slow number, but 50, something with a 5 in it just looks slow. But
I don't think I've ever actually seen a hockey player with 35, unless it's a goalie. I've only seen maybe a goalie with 35, and even then I can't remember. That may be something. If we have some listeners here, maybe put in the chat there, let us know if you actually know any famous 35 hockey players, because I can't recall any recently.
Yeah, that's a good question. Wait, it's been redraft season for football, but hockey is, like you said, right around the corner. Going to be doing a bunch of redrafts for that. If you guys are interested in trying out a league for the first time, or maybe you've only played in like 1 or 2 leagues, you just want to get in another one, we are throwing together the Around the Ice podcast league. We're going to do one. We've got a bunch of leagues with all our guys that have been around for a while, but we're going to try to get one together for some newbies. If you've never played hockey before, or you've only played in a couple leagues, you want to try something else different, we're going to try to put together a league this year, a free league, fun for listeners and some people we know that are like been chomping at the bit to try it out and want to get in the league and try something. So we are going to do that this year. So feel free to reach out to us here on the show. And we can get a hold of you, either send you an email. You can get a hold of us on Twitter. You can get a hold of me at JT Orange, Toast at Toast Clark, Aaron at Titch4141, or FIF Hockey. So FIF Hockey, Fifth Hockey. You can get a hold of us there. So feel free to let your friends know, everybody and reach out. We'd love to have you in the league. We'll be putting that together here shortly and sending invites out here in the next couple of weeks once we get all caught up here with the football stuff on that side of things. But we're getting ready for hockey. Talking centers tonight, guys. Obviously a super important position as we go through things, talking about hockey here again. For all those, we're just talking about straight centers, no guys that play the wing spots, anything like that. We're going to go through our tiers. Toast, why don't you jump us off with your top tier 1 guys? These guys are the top of the heat, the must-haves.
Yeah, so we actually put this list together. We put it, we compiled it together. Let's just say, I want to say we put it together. That would have been weird. So for our thoughts is there's two players in a tier one. They're kind of by themselves, and I think everybody could probably guess who those are. But you got McDavid, and you actually got Nathan McKinnon, true centers, man. The superstars of the game. The fantasy starts with those guys. It's funny, Aaron, you probably seen with some either pods you've been listening to or some mock drafts you've been doing, or just chatter online. Is there's a lot of people actually taking McKinnon now number one, and actually over McDavid. What's your thoughts on that? I'm not saying I'm completely on board with that. It's just I'm shocked on how that is kind of becoming the norm.
Yeah. Same thing. I mean, people are, if nothing else, it's pause. There's a pause. Let's say you get your league ready to go. You happen to draw that 1-1 spot. You can almost set your queue at go ahead as soon as the draft starts. Just take McDavid. I mean, it's been like that for a long time now. So, but yeah, you're right. MacDog is right up there. I think it's insane. The reason why is just because just what McDavid, not only what again, these are two just grade A talents. It's hard to say one's worse than the other, or slightly worse even. I feel silly even saying that, but I would say it's more of McDavid's passing ability. Like he can get, he's hit 100 assists. He did it at the same time with Kucherov, and I forgot who the was it just those two? I can't remember now, but
Yeah,
just
it was
a couple of years ago. So I just think his passing ability is superior when we're talking about score sheets. But the power play time on ice, it's about equal. So I don't know. Maybe the joke's on me. Maybe I should take more pause, but I don't know. I hold him in a different regard. I hold McDavid higher than anybody else. Until he really, shows me something that would dethrone him, I just don't see that coming anytime soon, at least for the next 5-6 years. So I think it's insanity. You're insane if you do it, but hey, why not take a chance? Maybe like watching Colorado games better. I don't know. Maybe something we don't know, but no, McDavid through and through.
Yeah, and I'll add here as well, Aaron, and I agree with you. I think McDavid still is the number one player to actually take in any draft, and the number one center for that matter as well. If you're picking one or two, I mean, and if you're picking one, Connor McDavid's your guy. Last year, 100, he had 100 points in 67 games. So the point total is really, really good. Only 26 goals, but 74 assists in only 67 games. So let's give him another 15 more games. He's probably at the 125 point mark. And that's after putting up a 132 point season a year before. Here's the concern, which I think maybe has fantasy owners a little bit down on McDavid. I'm actually just looking at trends, guys. All right, just trends alone. He really got on his hot streak. When I say hot streak, meaning that unworldly, right? I mean, he'd just be in the 21-22 season. It was just stupid. And I should say 2021 season, because you got to actually count the COVID season, right? That's when he started this absolutely go on a freaking tear to the point where he was raised at a whole nother level. In 21-22, he had 314 shots on goal. In 22-23, he had 352 shots on goal. In 23-24, he had 263 shots on goal. And last year, in 67 games, only 196 shots on goal. I know it's only 67 games, but that's a lot less shooting by Connor McDavid. I'm not sure why that was, why he was more of a pass-first guy last year and shoot less. The year he played 82 games for 22-23 and had his best season in his career, 64 points, and 64 goals, 89 assists, 153 points, 352 shots on goal. That's McKinnon-like, right? McKinnon's always the guy in the high 300s, just leading the league in shots. So McDavid, if he can bring up that shots on goal this year, let's say to 250, and he plays in 78 to 80 games, and he's at 250, 260, 270, the numbers will be there, and he's going to be just like he normally is. I mean, so I'm not ready to give up on him. And actually, when I say give up on him, relinquish that number 1 spot. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's like it's some of these times I think occasionally people just start overthinking this stuff. It's like a guy has just a little bit of a down year, and you got to realize like his down year is still unfreaking believable. And so sometimes you just people get and they start, people get frisky. They want to try something new. They want to do something stupid, and sometimes you just don't want to do that. Just go with the best guy. Don't mess around. Take the best players. But I think you're right, Toast. I think those guys are clear cut 1 or 2. If you're in most leagues, especially. And even in a redraft league, you're most likely probably taking those guys 1 and 2. They're going to be right at the top of your list, unless your league has some kind of different settings and you're looking to go a position that's super thin or something, and you want to try to get an advantage. But I think if you're just straight going with the top talent, I think those are the 2 guys. What about the next one? Another guy we're taking in the first round. Another guy in a 10 to 12 league is going right up there with these guys, but it's just maybe slightly behind them. Who's in our tier 2?
Yeah, so I got Austin Matthews in tier 2 alone by himself. And he's also a first-round player. He's probably a top 5 or top 6, top 7 pick. I would think in any format. And that's the thing about McDavid and McKinnon as well. And Aaron, I'll give you a chance to maybe add in what you think here as well. But it doesn't really matter the format for McDavid, McKinnon, and Matthews. It doesn't matter the format. Those guys are bona fide first-rounders. They're all top 6 picks, top 5, top 6 picks, somewhere around there. And Matthews reminds me of a couple years ago when McKinnon actually slipped in some drafts. And I did a brand new startup Dynasty categories league that you guys are in now. On that inaugural draft, and that would have actually been 2 years ago. So the 23-24 season, I got McKinnon at 6th overall. He slid. And
Wow.
We're talking about, I mean, it was like the steal of the draft. And that was a year everybody was kind of down on McKinnon. Like, oh my gosh, like there's other players that are better. And he had slightly an off year that was like an off year for him is amazing. That's how McDavid actually feels to me right now. Like, so 1 year ain't going to actually do it. And McKinnon, but Matthews, the big question is going to be is how's he going to respond without Mitch Marner? You got Max Domi on his right wing now on line 1. That's obviously a major, downgrade, and not taking anything away from Max Domi, but I'm kind of taking away from Max Domi when in comparison to Mitch Marner. And Marner goes over to Vegas, and man, that's going to be really fun to watch. But I think Matthews still, this could be a good thing for him. Does he shoot more, right? Is everybody going to defer to him a little bit more? Is he just going to have to take his game to another level? If that's the case, then Matthews, instead of actually being at number 6 overall, could be like your number 4 or 3 overall because he's that good. He's a generational talent.
Yeah, and only 1 year separated from 70, almost 70 goals. So he does have, he's kind of been the this newer generation, and by newer generation I mean since Matthews came into the league. What was it, 16, 17, I want to say, whatever year it was that he came in, he's kind of at the forefront of this whole. It's kind of like a toe drag shot. So you see all these kids, again, you pull it up on YouTube, you can see everybody that's doing it. You see Dylan Gunther, you see Connor Bedard. They kind of, the model they're using is that Austin Matthews. And all it does is when you have the puck out, basically, what a toe drag is you just put the puck at the end of the stick, and then you just kind of bring it around. So you start it way out, you kind of bring it around in your body, and then it changes the angle. So if you shoot it in that motion, you're actually changing the angle at which the goalie expects the shot to come. Well, it's hard to pull off, but even harder than to pick your spot. Austin Matthews, and the guys I just named, maybe there's probably 10 more guys that I'm forgetting, but he's really mastered that. So that deceptive shot means a lot. So yeah, you're standing in the same place, but where you're moving your hands and how that quick release, and he's also got a real good snapshot. Snapshot's like a combination. It's not a wrist shot, but it's And it's not a slap shot where you're cranking it back and you're swinging like a golf club. It's that real, you maybe take it at knee height and you just snap it through. Again, all these things are what he's mastered. So when you have those skills, yeah, it's good. I think he's going to see a little bit. Mitch Marner, he's a world class passer. Get off my guy, John. Yeah.
He loves Austin Matthews. We
Yes,
know John loves him. Yeah, he's got his team named after him, so he likes him a lot.
He's got some skin in the game there. But with Austin, I guess what I'm saying, yes, I do think that there could possibly be a dip because you got a guy like Marner. He's the one that set up McDavid on the winner for the Four Nations last year. He finds holes. He does all that. It doesn't really matter. It's maybe he's going to miss out on 2 or 3 more goals. He's just so good. He's going to find a way to score. He scores in bunches. I thought Austin Matthews played very well in the playoffs. I know they got bounced, and it's another failure for Toronto. If they don't win the cup, it's a failure. I get it, but I think he played well in the playoffs. I think he had a little bit of a down season, but again, we're one season away from the guy practically putting in 70 tucks. That's incredible. That's Teemu Solani level. That's Sergei Fedorov level, who just got his number in the rafters. JT, big win for Detroit.
Fedorov, yeah.
It's long overdue.
See that today.
Love it. They need to hang those white skates too. The white Nike skates he always used to. Those have to be on the bottom of his banner or something. I don't know. I hope they do. But anyway, Matthews, yeah, and I like the tiering because you could probably argue putting him in the first tier, but if you don't, you got to put him out because there's enough of a drop off of the next guy's toast you'll be talking about here shortly that sets Matthews above. Like it's a pretty steep fall, in my opinion, when we talk about the next group. So I'm glad to see him at least in his own tier if he's not with the 2 top dogs.
Yeah, and like McDavid, he only played in 67 games last year. And even then, 67 games, he only had 33 goals. And you say only 33 goals for him. That's low. I put it in perspective. In the 2021 season, he had 41 goals in 52 games. I mean, so 33 goals is the lowest total of his entire career. He only shot 12.6% last year. That's also a second career low. And he's an average 16% shooter, and only shot the biscuit 261 times last year. Again, you got to think he's going to be wanting to come back and actually prove that last year, was a down year, even though it's still awesome. A lot like McDavid, I would imagine both these guys are going to bounce back in a big way. If you have an opportunity to actually get Matthews on the cheap, when I say on the cheap, meaning you're never going to get him for the cheap, but you can get him on your team, before you would have no chance of getting him on your team. It doesn't matter what you're going to give up. Now's the time. He hasn't actually been any lower in this, and he hasn't diminished as a player. So, plus, I love him in like a bangers league or even a categories league. He'll churn you in close to like 90 to 100 blocks a year as well. He blocks, which is really interesting. And I know he's done a little bit more penalty kill of late in the last couple of years. That really has also, you had thought in 23-24 season that was going to cause his stats to dip. It didn't. He went both ways for the first time, and he had the best year of his career, right? So I anticipate that he's going to bounce back in a big way. I'm going to try to snipe him maybe in a league or two. McGlenn, get ready. I'll be coming your way, buddy.
If he'd have to change his whole name, forget it.
Yeah, that's his problem though. So
the offers. John always loves trade offers. He loves the trade. So always look at that. Yes. Our next tier here, tier 3. This is like one of our bigger groups of players. Got about 5 guys in this tier. We're looking, second round, early third round. Probably where you're taking guys depending on some of the league stats and one of those things. But let's take a look at this next round. These guys maybe not so clear cut, or are they? Which guys you like top to bottom, especially in redraft and dynasty, because some of these guys age wise quite a bit different. So it might affect how you look at them overall. What do you guys think about this next tier, or tier 3?
This tier of centers here, and again, it's just centers only. We'll talk about the dual eligible players, and next week or the week after. But if you look at So here's tier 3. There's 5 of them, and again, this is very subjective. So Braden Point, Sid Crosby, Jack Eichel, Jack Hughes, Tim Stützle. What I can say about all 5 of those, and you may come out to me with a gun and say, "Hey, Stützle, are you serious?" But I think so highly of him, and I know we all do on this podcast here, especially given his age and what he's actually done in the league so far, and his line mates as well. These all these guys play on, for the most part, powered offenses. Braden Point in Tampa Bay, Jack Eichel of Vegas, Jack Hughes in New Jersey. Again, Tim Stützle in Ottawa. Crosby, okay, is Pittsburgh on a high octane offense? No, but Sid Crosby is one of the top 10 best players of all time. So it doesn't matter, makes no difference. I mean, this guy is aging like fine wine. I just can't get over the fact of how freaking good he is. And you look at his line mates of Brian Rust, and Ricard Raquel had a phenomenal season last year. Plays on the second line, not the first line, but is on the power play as well. You just look at Crosby's caster on him, so old, a revolving door of actually of players coming in and out. And he just keeps doing it over and over and over again. But I want to talk about a couple of these players individually. But Aaron, is there anybody on this tier 3 list, Point, Crosby, Eichel, Hughes, Stützle, that you have a problem with being there? And if so, awesome, because I'd like to actually open this little debate. But if not, who is interesting to you on that tier 3 list? And do you like taking them in the early second and into the second and early third round?
Yeah, the one guy I want to shout out is more of an underrated guy, and that's Braden Point. That's the top guy or first guy we've got here on our list of tier 3. I think he gets passed up a lot. I know so again, going back to our home league, it's a Dynasty league. I passed on Braden Point for Jason Robertson. Up until the last 2 months of the season, I was just kicking myself over that. It was horrible. Kept going back to it like, God, I could have been in, it's 2 more wins. If there was such a thing as a WAR rating on fantasy, which I'm sure there is, but what a mistake. Robertson then did finally come back to life and remember that he found his game, but that guy's a whole nother mess. We'll take a dump on him when we get to our wings, but Braden Point, I think he's consistently he's been there. Last year was the big test, in my opinion. You take away Stammer, you take away Steve Stamkos, that it was his team. He was there. He's as automatic as you get. What's Point and Point stepped up. He stepped right up. He didn't skip a beat. So I really like him. I mean, you see my favorite out of the group. I don't know. I'd have to really kind of sit and contemplate, but at least for those guys that kind of get overlooked, I'd say he's very underrated. Because he definitely belongs with these names. And then, like you said, Sid is just he's defying logic. I don't get it. It's easy to say, well, at some point it's going to fall off the table. I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, I can't believe what we're seeing, and I think it'll be something that'll be talked about long after he leaves the game. That he's just getting better year to year, and his team's getting worse and worse around him. It's like, what's going on? What is this guy doing? But just those two really jump out. Everybody else here, though, huge Tim Stützle fan, just like you guys are. It's a matter of time before one of us gets the sweater with his name on the bar and number. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We'll see who does it first, but love him.
Yeah, and let me mention one thing here about Braden Point and Crosby as well. I'll start with Point because I guess can't help myself. This tier 3 is a really interesting group here. I mean, we could talk about them each individually here for 10 minutes. We don't have that type of time. But Point is so interesting because all he does is actually score goals. When I say all he does is score, that's true. That's from a fantasy perspective. He just scores goals. And if you're in a Cats league and you actually do power play points as well, he's great at that. He's always over 30 power play points a year. But he relies on a really high shooting percentage. He's always over 20%. He does not shoot the puck that much at all in relation to the games played and stuff like that. He does not hit. He does not block. So he better be scoring over 40 goals. And if he doesn't, then you're going to be like really, really disappointed in a redraft league if you took Braden Point, let's say, second round as your top center, and he ends up having one of those dip seasons where he only scores 28 goals and actually has 45 assists type of thing, and he only shoots the puck about 175 times that hit or block. You're going to be like, okay, it didn't work out. And by the way, you shot 15%, which is what normal people actually shoot, and you're actually not shooting your 20% a year. So, but Point, I mean, we shouldn't say that we actually have worries about it. In a redraft league, I always look at like, and Aaron, I know you and JT do as well. You look at who he's actually playing with and actually who his line mates are, man. And I'm telling you what, I'm actually just bringing it up right now. But Jake Gensel, Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, that's probably a top 2 or 3 line one in the entire NHL. I mean, you don't get much better than that. That may be the top. You could argue it being the top line, top to bottom there in NHL for the top line, right? So they stack it high, man. They're really good. Tampa Bay's been doing it for a long time. So given who he's playing with, that's why he's probably shooting at 22% a season and getting by with it because he can't. Look at who he's playing with.
Well, Toast, you're talking about right. I mean, he's getting good looks because of the guys playing around him. So it's not like he's just shooting. He's getting great looks. I love him, especially if you're talking about a redraft heavy just points straight like scoring league where you're not counting a lot, either not counting hits and blocks at all, or they're like very minuscule amount of points, and you're getting more points for goals or power play goals or a little higher. To me, he does move up in that type of format. And part of the reason he moves up in that format is you're going to get goals from him. But again, I love that line. That line to me is what I want. I want a guy that's like, all right, I know this line's going to score. He's going to have a shot, either a rebound, somebody setting him up, getting an assist just by passing it around because the line's good. So I'd rather just bet on that more than anything. I want to bet on the guys that I know are going to be on lines that score. So for me, that's where I probably would lean towards him a little more. And especially if you're in one of those, Yahoo, ESPN, like just straight like goals, assists, and almost nothing else really counts. Maybe a small percentage for shots, even like only get maybe a 0.1 for a shot. Those are the ones I'm probably going to lean a little more heavier on him just because I was like, because the line is so good and he's going to have a shot and he's on a pretty good team. So that would push him up in those type of formats for me.
Yep. Yeah. Well said, JT. And last thing I'll say regarding Crosby, my guess is that Tim Stützle and Jack Eichel, you look at this, let's just look at this tier one more time here. So you got Point, Crosby, Eichel, Hughes, and Stützle. I would not shock me at all that in redraft leagues, especially in Dynasty, but let's not count Dynasty because that's not really fair. I could see Crosby actually being 4th out of those 5 on draft position, meaning going later. I would I'll walk out of that draft saying if Sid Crosby is my 1C and somebody else has Braden Point or Jack, I'm happy. And you're probably going to he could slide down to round 3. With other guys going to be a late round 2. And then if you're especially, let's say you're at the churn, let's say at picking 7 spot out of 12 in the second round, and you happen to pass on them at pick 7 and then come back around on the wraparound on the 3rd, you could still get Crosby and let all those other guys take those guys. So and you can maybe load up with a stud defenseman in the second round, and then I come back and get Crosby in the 3rd. That's how you're going to win a redraft league, because I think Crosby, he's going to put up another 90-point season. He will. He proved it last year. He can do it, and there's no reason why he won't do it again. Everybody's like the age, this and that. He's shown no signs of slowing down. He's a freak. So I like Crosby as the best value pick on all those guys.
For our tier 4 guys, we're talking about maybe 4th, 5th round. We're eyeing. Got 4 guys in this one. I think this one's a very interesting tier because you got some of the real young guys are like, hey, are you buying the upside of the young guys in a redraft, or are you going a little more experience with the veterans here? What do you guys think here for this tier 4?
Aaron, I'll let you start off with this one.
Yeah, well, for tier 4, we've got 4 guys in this one. We've got Erickson Eck out of Minnesota, center there with playing really talented Matt Boldy. I think he's coming into his own. So again, we talked about line mates before. I think his stock has gone up as Boldy's does. Got your boy Dylan Larkin, captain, my captain, the modern day, probably 10 times faster modern day John Taves. He can play defense, offense. He can do it all. And then the 2 guys I'm really most excited about, just because of it's not last year but the year before, and then the 2024 pick. But you got the up and comers, the kind of handing the baton off, if you will. But you have Celebrini, Macklin Celebrini, and Connor Bedard. So we've got those young guys. I mean, they've shown us enough. I know, and again, we the 3 of us here, we're in the Chicago sports media zone, so there's definitely a microscope. You hear a lot on Bedard this and Bedard that, and when you really take a lot of that noise out, I mean, again, we're back to where we were. We're a championship starved city. We're a huge city, huge sports state, and we just don't have a lot in the trophy case. So these guys get a microscope on them. You've got a young GM in Chicago. You have a lot of things that really point that light on, well, he needs to do it all. He needs to do this, needs to do that. And really, statistically, when you look at and break down what Connor Bedard's done, what he's brought, how he's developed, it is a promising. It is looking like it's shaping up to that guy. I know Toast. I want to say it was one of maybe the first pods we ever did. Like, what's your real speculation? Or at some point we had that question came up, like, what do you see out of success for Bedard? Like, what minimum does he have to, like, he's and whatever line we set, like, he's trending to that. See the same thing with Macklin Celebrini, just guys that we're really, really excited to see. Now, this tier, now we're talking in tier 4. This changes significantly in a dynasty league. Obviously, now you might be arguably saying these are tier 1 guys, but again, just to remind listeners or where we're at, or how are these guys tier 4? We're talking about redraft, just your simple scoring, and then of course center eligibility only. It's funny. The last thing I'll mention here real quick is the center and wing position has evolved, meaning that you see more wings kind of, if they have to, if the center goes down and digs out the puck, you see some, and there's certain, you cover for this guy, cover for that guy, but you're seeing the centers and wings just not, they're more kind of, again, as the position evolves, you're seeing more of the same characteristics out of all 3 forwards. Will we see that all of these guys eventually, maybe they throw them on a wing here or there, maybe it's a shutdown line, they throw them on the wing, and we don't see this just overabundance of centers like we do right now. We might see more multi-position eligibility, but for right now, center only. Those guys kind of round out our tier 4. But I could see, and the reason why I say that and why I kind of ended with that is there's talk, again, there's speculation of eventually Bedard moving over. I don't buy it. I think he's made his way as a center. I think he'll always be a center. Got about the same stature as Braden Point. So I kind of falls on a deaf argument for always too small to keep up. He's not 6'1". Well, he's not that far off. I mean, there's guys that are doing it at this position, so I don't buy any of that. I think he's a center. He'll stay a center. And I have nothing but high hopes for him. I can't wait, especially for those 2.
Yeah, I think tier 4 and tier 5, that's where the waters get muddied, right? Where it's
I'd agree.
Subjective, where we could actually put everybody in the room here and be like, okay, I'd flip flop your tier 5 and tier 4, and I like the guys in tier 5 better than tier 4 or whatever. I think the reason why Celebrini and Bedard making it our tier 4 is because if you look at overall any format, whether it actually be Cats, straight points league scoring, Dynasty, of course, they have great value in Dynasty, and even even redraft there, and throw in bangers as well. I think they have the best value and right now and upside moving forward, right? I think Celebrini and Bedard are going to be top 10 players of the league. If you go ahead and take your crystal ball and actually go ahead and actually throw it and move it about 4 years from now, they'll both be top 10 players in the league. You're going to have some guys graduating where they're on the couch and actually not doing anything anymore. And you're going to realize how good these guys are. Bedard, people want to really get on him about this and that. Again, we've talked about this as being homers, and everybody's going to say, hey, you got Celebrini and Bedard in there because you're homers. Bedard being a homer and Celebrini because we love watching West Coast hockey, right, JT?
Yeah.
And San Jose.
Absolutely.
We do. We love it.
Yeah.
But you're going to realize these teams these guys have been playing on are so bad. They've been awful. I mean, they're awful teams. And the fact that they're actually putting up like 0.75 points per game in their career so far. it's really good considering who they're actually playing with. And that even goes down like even for Chicago.
Yeah.
They're trailing pretty big in most games. When you're actually trailing that big, how hard is it to actually get the momentum and the really the drive and the motivation to keep playing 60 minutes there and actually and maximize your time on ice of 21 minutes a game, whatever you're actually getting. It's hard, especially on somebody who's actually for Celebrini and Bedard, who is just used to doing whatever the hell they want to do on the ice. That's why they're in tier 4, because you got to look at their stats. You got to be realistic about where they're at. And those stats are really good considering what they've been dealing with. And Celebrini and San Jose, they're probably closer, right? They're probably closer, especially, given Misa and actually having that pick this year and stuff. In our opinion, probably the best fantasy player, right, in the draft, and probably the best player overall, and a lot of people's opinion. San Jose is a little bit closer in Chicago, but Chicago's actually got so much cap space. They're going to be a really big player in this free agent class. The trade deadline coming up and the free agent class next year. That's what it's going to be a really, really big free agent class, and they got all the cap space. They got all the young talent. A lot of good players going to want to come to the situation because it's really good, big market as well. So that's why these guys are in tier 4. But JT, we also, I know we got 8 tiers and we'll get there. But I felt, pretty inclined to actually include like Dylan Larkin in this tier here, man. I know that the Wings have actually fell a little short over the past couple of years as far as like either A, making the playoffs, or B, making a deep playoff run. But all in all, minus your Patrick Kane, who I think Kane is going to watch Kane deep in drafts, 10 round, 11 round. I would draft him then. I wouldn't wait till like 16th, 17th round. I would get him then. This is a young team. This is a young team overall, that just actually is coming out of the rebuild and actually learning how to kind of win. And I don't really think that they should be a big disappointment. They get that goalie situation squared away. And I don't think you're going to have any problem actually having Dylan Larkin as a tier 4 center right there.
Yeah, I like Larkin. I feel like Larkin early in his career was a little bit in the spot that Celebrini and Bedard are right now, and that he was kind of the guy everybody was looking to, going, you're going to be the captain, you're the next guy on this team, but they just didn't have any talent around him. And so he was just kind of out there trying to do everything he could, but he was trying to be a good captain, trying to get everybody involved. And I think for fantasy purposes, it wasn't great for him for a few years there. Even though I think he played well, you just didn't necessarily see it on the stat sheet when it came to fantasy. I think last year he was much improved. I think you saw the talent on the Wings is getting better. I think it's allowed him to get better. I don't think he's playing as tight as he did early in his career, where I think he felt like he had to do everything. You know what I'm saying? So I think that makes a big difference. And I do think, look at this. If you're in a redraft league that might be a keeper league, or they add 1 keeper, 2 keepers, or you just, if you're in one league, that's where you maybe, for me, I would maybe slightly lean to the younger guys, because they have the best shot as far as Bedard and Celebrini to really take that big step. And if you got him in a keeper and you got him in this round or this area, I think you'd feel ecstatic about him if you got to keep those guys. So in that type of format, I would really consider that. You know me, it got down to this point. In a straight redraft, I'm probably taking Larkin just for my bias as being a Red Wings fan. But I think if you're looking at keeper, I could take a guy that there's a chance he ends up being a top 10 in a year or two, and I could keep that guy, then I would probably lean towards some of the younger guys there. But I do think Larkin is getting better, and I think it's because the talent around him is good. I think he went from being slightly overrated to slightly underrated lately. I think maybe he was overrated for fantasy purposes early in his career because the team wasn't good around him. But then I do think he really kind of picked it up and has proven to be a pretty solid fantasy asset, especially if you're like in a Cats league or a Bangers league where he does give you a little bit of everything. I think it does help him out for sure as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, and you'll see that with Bedard this year. Wait till Bedard goes. Let's say, Aaron, let's say Bedard goes 75 points this year. Okay. Like, let's say 30 goals, 45 assists, 75 points. Again, if you look at the body of work for those 3 years, given who he's actually have around or lack thereof, amazing. But if you're not looking at that and you're saying this guy was a generational talent touted the next Sid Crosby and stuff, and he's not doing what actually McDavid did and these guys did at 100 points this year, you're going to say he's actually overrated. But if you actually look at that in a vacuum and actually look at it realistically, you're going to be like, that's when you actually need to pounce on a guy like that, especially in a draft where you actually have keepers, whatnot. I mean, look at the age, actually you'll get that. But again, it's very subjective. If there were some listeners out there who were like, man, I'm really tuned into fantasy hockey, we could have fights right now, right? Because tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, they could all be interchangeable, right? It depends on your segment or your scoring format. It really depends on your preference, but you got to look at upside. You got to look at upsides and talent overall, and those guys have a lot of talent. But JT, we could go into tier 5. I
was gonna say if we jump into tier, let's jump into tier 5 because I was gonna say this tier is a little bit different. You get a little bit older guys, a few older guys, and some younger guys, younger guys in this tier. You've got a few names that probably pop out to normal everyday people that, like, even if they're just paying a little attention to hockey, they probably know them. But then you also have some guys that are probably, if you're maybe more of a newbie to hockey, some of these guys you're not going to really recognize their names. I do think, man, this tier, I think it really could be depending on your build and what you're doing, and if you like a certain team or type of player, because I do think these guys are pretty mixed together in this tier. I really could see these guys going top to bottom in any order.
So let me ask you a question, Aaron. Again, I keep putting you on the spot. You're like, hey, Toast, quit doing that. But there's a good argument that, center's so deep, right? We know that. Center's deep. They do a little bit of everything, especially in Cats leagues, right? So they touch the puck, they do face-offs, they actually have assists, they goals. And a lot of times the centers are your best players, so they actually do some penalty kill as well. So they'll get some blocks there. And just, again, they could fill up a stat sheet. Let's say everything equal. And we'll get into tier 5 here, and JT, you can kind of say who's in tier 5 and, here, but I may be more inclined to actually pass on these guys in tier 1, 2, and 3, knowing how wing is a little thin, and say I'm really gonna be real happy with getting a couple tier 5 guys, and I'll go wings or even defensemen there early on in my draft, and I'll wait till the 4th, 5th round to get a couple centers back to back, like John Tavares is who we have in tier 5, Sam Bennett. Man, monster year last year for Florida. Signed a contract too. He's gonna be there a long time. God, Florida's just a juggernaut. Sebastian Aho, always steady Eddie there, and Carolina, and a Carolina team that really they don't light the stat sheet up, right? But somebody's got to score, and Aho's always actually done that. And Nick Suzuki, man, for Montreal. Montreal, watch out for Montreal. That's the team this year. That's gonna be the sexy pick for everybody, right? Because Montreal is just up and coming. They got so much young talent. They're doing it right. And then Sasha Barkov, which is funny, like having Barkov as probably was Selke Trophy. He's probably the best two-way player in the game, right? And you got him at tier 5, but that's probably why he's in tier 5 because he's not really looking to actually score a shit ton of goals, ton of assists. He's just doing everything. He's your Jonathan Taves type of player, right? So what do you guys think about tier 5? Tavares, Bennett, Aho, Suzuki, and Barkov. And do you feel comfortable waiting and maybe taking a couple of those guys?
Yeah, for sure. And JT's kind of pointed this out a couple of times too. Like we look at Braden Point, we look at his line mates. So Braden Point, high percentage shooter, but you got two guys covering Kucherov. You got maybe one floater looking at Gensel. Again, you already used the analogy maybe of some of the slower ended teams. Somebody's got to score. So yeah, short answer is yes. I'm looking at these guys and I'm perfectly happy with a Nick Suzuki, especially with all the we've kind of been pumping the tires on the Montreal Canadiens, but they got some talent now. They got some talent in the pipeline. They are going to be a pretty exciting team. And this guy, again, if you look at his stats, so if you just look at standard stats, he's been the definition of consistency. He's there, he's front and center, no pun intended, but again, yeah, I'm perfectly happy. If I can get some real dynamite wings, right and left, or maybe right and left, both eligible, I'm probably targeting those guys, and I'm going to be just so. Say I have a Kucherov and I don't know, so some other equal winged, Leon. I think he's going to be one of those guys. Leo Draisaitl that I will talk about when we talk about wings because he's got the multi or say a Willie Stiles, William Nylander. You can probably get a couple of, maybe a Nylander and a Kucherov at the turn if you got that at the end of your pick, and then you throw in a Nick Suzuki. I'm perfectly happy, or Sebastian Aho. Bennett, I'm not as sold on just because I think he's a playoff guy. He statistically put it up, but like you said with Barkov, he doesn't care. Somebody's going to get goals on that team. That team is just so loaded. It's how many goals can I keep out of the net? How many goals can I keep off Bobrovsky? Because we're going to need Bob for the playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and wear a couple of those shots. I'm going to go ahead and skate back and take the puck. That's what that guy does. He just lives in the neutral zone. He's not going to go down and get all the fame and glory and the pictures and the fancy. He knows he can score. That's boring. I'll get my hands dirty and get my lunch pail and go to work. But Tavares, again, and he's another one, last one I'll mention here, but Tavares is one that, other than Sid, like, you can see a measurable decline with Tavares. So if you're going to compare a couple of guys that are aging and the difference, again, Sid he doesn't have an equal, so it's hard to say, look at, compare everybody against Sid. He doesn't have a peer, but Tavares, I don't know. I'm a little shaky on him. I'm shaky on the Leafs now without Marner, without their core four, as they call them. We'll see what he does. Yeah, although I say that he did have a good year last year. It was the year before he kind of tanked. Last year he kind of brought it back up, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and JT, I'll say, like Sam Bennett, right? Like there's a tier 5 guy we put. He could easily go tier 7, like with Hentz and Norris. We'll get to them here soon, right? So it's very subjective. But JT, I'm going to ask you a question here. And there's no right or wrong answer. All right, guys. Listeners, I'll tell you guys right now, there's no right or wrong answer. It's all preference, whatnot. But again, our job is to really try to prepare you guys for your drafts, especially your redrafts here, and give you a little bit of something to chew on when you actually lead this draft and be like, they mentioned that. I'm going to think about that for a couple of days. So JT, I'm going to ask you, and there, again, no right or wrong answer. Would you actually like to have McDavid in tier 1 and then Marco Rossi in tier 8? That be your 1C and your 2C? Or would you like to have Dylan Larkin and Nick Suzuki tier 4 and 5?
All right.
I mean, and again, the reason why you want McDavid and Rossi is because, again, you're going to want to go ahead and go maybe get your Makar or get your Werenski, right, a defenseman, or even go ahead and get your top winger and stuff. That's fine. But if you there's many different ways you can go in a draft, right? And down the middle, especially in a lot of different. I mean, you want to be center heavy, but just knowing centers are deep. So, which way would you prefer to go if it were you?
Yeah, I think it definitely depends. And if you're playing a league where they're doing position minimums, where you got to have guys playing in specific spots, or if we're playing, just forward defensemen combined.
And most leagues do, yeah.
Because I think if you do it combined, then I'm a little less worried about, is a guy a winger or a center?
Right.
I think a lot of times I'm just trying to draft the guy I think's the best player as far as like what can he get me points wise. Like anybody else, I think sometimes I lean a little heavier on guys that are on good teams, because I'm like, well, they're at least going to be in the mix and trying to score and not getting blown out and getting shut out every night. So then I kind of lean towards those guys. You know me in the past, I probably it's a toughie. If it's McDavid or McKinnon, I'm probably gonna have a hard time passing one of those guys up, even if I do like the other two guys. But me in our Bangers League, I've tended to go defense a little earlier than some other people, but I've also tended to have some loaded defenses over the years, because I do draft them just a hair early. So I usually do try to get a pretty balanced team whenever I can, as opposed to being very top heavy. I'm always worried, especially in hockey, even these guys are tough. Always got to worry about injuries piling up, and I don't want to get too top heavy of a team where I feel like I'm loaded up top, but if anything happens or somebody doesn't play well, I'm totally screwed. So I don't want to do that. So I probably, just because it's hard to pass up one of those guys in tier 1, and you feel like you can get something for Rossi there. But I definitely, like you said earlier, I don't have a problem if you're playing in a league where you need a forward, kind of leaning forward heavy early and then kind of filling in with these later centers, because I do like a lot of these guys.
Yeah, it's equivalent, JT. And to put this in perspective for a lot of our listeners, especially just knowing that there's many more fantasy football leagues out there than there is hockey. This would be no different in your 2 quarterback leagues, right? So 2 quarterback leagues, are you happy with actually getting a top tier guy, let's say a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson, and then actually waiting a little bit longer for your second quarterback and actually getting somewhere on a neighborhood of, let's say, a Michael Penix Jr. Or a Cam Ward, or somebody in there to the 20 to 24 range, instead of getting 2 guys that are maybe 9, 10, 11, like your Baker Mayfield and your Justin Fields and those type of guys, and get 2 of those, right? Yep. So it's all about, do you have a plan? How do you actually want to do that? I don't know if there's a right or wrong way, but everybody's got preferences. And I would say with centers, treat them like they are wide receivers. In football, you got a lot of them. And
much deeper position than anywhere else. Yep. So I think that's a good analogy, Toast. Let's jump in here to tier 6. These are guys we're kind of projecting would go like 7th, 8th round in your redraft. Let's jump into these fellows. We're finishing up our last 3 tiers here as we close out the last 10, 15 minutes of the show.
With tier 6 here, I'll kind of kick this one off. We got, and I'll highlight I'll highlight 2 of these guys real quick, but we got Vincent Trocheck, Mark Scheifele, Bo Horvat, Nico Hischier, and Dylan Cousins. 2 guys I want to highlight out of this tier. Vincent Trocheck, we've talked about it a little bit, again, depending on your format here, but here's a guy that's good for Cat League. Here's a guy that's good for a Banger League, gets on the scoreboard and he puts the body on. Probably our most solid out of this category, I would say probably the 1A of our tier 6, Vince Trocheck. I think he's put it up. He's getting a lot of ice time there in New York. And then I'm gonna go with the wild card. I'm gonna jump right to the wild card, and that's Dylan Cousins. He was on a brutal team for a really long time, put up some good offensive numbers with Buffalo. He's playing with Ottawa. Well, oh, great, he's with Ottawa. But man, who's on his line? Like the line 1 in Ottawa, pretty hot. You got Stützle, you got Chucky, and then forgot not Batherson, but forget the wing now.
Pinto?
Pinto's a center. trying to think who the other winger is. I'm looking at it
Claude Giroux. Yeah.
Zetterlund. No, they got Zetterlund. He
okay.
left.
Well, I love that guy.
He's
a good banger.
projected to go top line. So, but again, to my point, even their top line winger, right wing, left wing, doesn't come off. It's not at the tip of the tongue. I'm a little concerned with that. Dylan Cousins. I mean, he did some great things with a bad team. Now he's on a good team, so he's kind of playing second fiddle to that. I don't know. I just don't know. What I did see, he's not much of a hitter, but he hit a lot when he went to Ottawa. So are we seeing a transformation for this guy? So if he's not the top center or second center, who is it that we're going to see? So he's kind of the wild card. Like I could see him jumping 2 tiers if he's at his full prime potential, or if he hit like he hit in Ottawa and then he scored like he did in Buffalo. We're talking about a real steal in this draft. Or if he doesn't hit and he doesn't score, he stinks and he's right off our list. So that's the wild card in this tier.
Yeah, and I'll throw out my wild card in this tier, and that's Mark Scheifele. And Aaron, agree with everything you said. Great analogy or great analysis there. Honestly, Scheifele kind of concerns me a little bit, and it's not because he's really been a disappointment. He hasn't. He's been really, really good, but he's been too good. You look at the shots on goal. Scheifele, he don't shoot the puck. He don't shoot the puck at all, and they lost Ehlers, right? So and then they actually they signed Velarde to if I remember right, a little bit of a larger contract, and I'm not quite sure Gabe Velarde is worth kind of what they're paying him. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of the 6-year deal worth $7 million per type of thing. That may look pretty good considering the cap and everything, but I'm not quite sure about that. And then Kyle Connor, of course. And then you got Jonathan Toews coming as the second line center this year. That team, they're going to be carried by goaltending, of course. They got the best one in the world, and it's not even close. Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk on the defensive end there. But Scheifele had his best year of his career last year at 32 years old. And only shot the puck 181 times and scored 39 goals. Shot 21.5%. Like, whoa, that's really, really high. Scheifele's a guy who shoots high, right? So he's a 17% shooter for his career, which is really, really high in general. Again, a guy who's benefited from being a great player, for one, and two, actually playing with really good players around him. He'll do pretty much a hit per game, a block per game. Really, really good there as well. But last year, he played like a top 6 or 7 center, which would actually put him like in a tier 3, and we have him down in the tier 6 here. So it's just, can he do it again? And I'm not quite sure he can, because last year was an unbelievable season. I feel different about him if he actually shot the puck 280 to 300 times every single season. He doesn't do that, right? So you rely on that high shooting percentage, and when you lose Ehlers, what's that going to look like? So not quite sure how it's going to I would fade Mark Scheifele a little bit. Don't overdraft him based on what he did last year. You draft him based on where he normally is. And I would say where we actually have him this year, which JT, I'm going to look here. Sorry. So Scheifele, tier 6, 7th round to 8th round. You're looking at right around pick 80 to 90. That's where you should be drafting him. If you draft him at 40, 45 based on what he did last year, I think you could be disappointed. So that's a guy you just don't want to reach for.
Yeah, moving on here to tier 7. We got tier 7, tier 8 to finish out. 8 9th rounders here in tier 7. This is an interesting group. Some nice names in here. Some guys that are really good hockey players, but don't always give you the stats you need fantasy. So that's why they drop them. We've got Norris, Hintz, Cooley, and Monahan. Monster year for him last year. Hintz is just on a great team, but he never seems to lead them in any categories almost, it seems like, even though he's a really good player. You love him in real life, but you're like, the fantasy upside of him doesn't always come through. And I know, Toast, I'll let you talk about Norris here. Norris is a guy I got offered in one of our Cats leagues. I was really considering it. But he's a dude that it's just, man, if he can stay healthy, it's like,
That's
he's got the talent. The talent's there, but like, can you rely on him? Are you a little more willing to take a chance on him on a 1-year redraft as opposed to, sitting on a guy like this for Dynasty and being like, oh man, how many years can I take of not knowing what's going to happen with him?
Yeah, there's three, these 4 players: Josh Norris, Rupe Hentz, Cooley, and Monahan for Columbus. There's 3 of them I love, right? Norris, Cooley, and Monahan, depending on the format, right? Hence, again, man, he plays for Dallas and they're great. He didn't shoot the puck. He will not shoot. I think 140, 150, 160 shots a season. That's not his game, so he doesn't hit a ton, doesn't block a ton. So that's why he's down in tier 7. He just doesn't get the peripherals you actually want. Josh Norris.
And he's the most likely to get overdrafted, don't you?
Yes.
If someone's looking at like name value, a guy on a good team with a name, and like, oh, he's really good, but they're not like really researching stat wise what he's done. Yeah. He's a guy that I feel like can go a round or 2 earlier. Like, he's a guy you would take. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to take him very high because you still want him on your team, but you're just like, you don't want to be counting on him for points night in, night out, correct?
Yeah, he's a guy that actually probably is going to be drafted on average somewhere around 55 to 60 to 65. He should be going 90, 95 to 100. That's my thought. Josh Norris, different story. I'm still waiting for Norris to actually put together a full season where he's actually healthy the entire season. And for him actually getting traded from Ottawa to go over to Buffalo, there's no better spot I actually want him to land than actually Buffalo, because he actually gets to go with Tage Thompson, right? So I love Norris. Norris, he'll hit the shit out of everybody. He shoots at a really, really good percentage. When he's on the puck, or I'm sorry, on the ice, he's really, really good. And he's young. I think Norris is 25, 26 tops. So I traded him in our Dynasty League to my brother, and it wasn't because I didn't like him. I love Norris. I actually needed some guy to get hits and blocks. So I end up trading him for a defenseman, and it slipped my mind exactly who it was now, but not because I didn't like Norris. He just couldn't stay on the ice for me. But Norris is the guy. So if he plays 80 games, he's tier 4. He's tier 4 for me. And then Monahan for Columbus. Monahan for Columbus, I'll tell you what, man, playing inspired hockey last year. They all were. Gaudreau, what actually happened. And he's got all those Russians around him. And Monahan's another guy where he was hurt for, Aaron, I think it was 5-6 weeks during the season, where he was actually hurt. But man, when he was in there, he was awesome. And so I like his line mates, and I like what they're doing in Columbus. I think Monahan's a steal. If you could come out of a draft and actually say, I have Josh Norris, I got Monahan, and I also actually have, let's say, Nico Hischier or Dylan Cousins, and those are my 3 centers. And I mean, I'm loaded up with like defensemen, let's say like Makar, and I also actually have a winger like Kucherov, and I'm like, oh, I love that team. So don't be shy for these tier 6, 7 guys here, especially these 7 guys. These tier 7 guys, this group here alone, they got tier 4 potential. They do.
Yeah. I mean, Logan Cooley for me stands out. I'm excited. I'm not Sharks level excited, but it's just under that to watch the Utah Mammoth and how they've come together, and they've thrown this team together. They got some real young studs on there. Cooley, his stats have gotten better and better. He didn't play the full 82 last year. When he does play 82, if he plays 82 this year, minimum 35 goals out of this guy is what I see out of him. Yeah. I cannot wait to see him. Norris, I respect your guys' opinion on him. I think that guy stinks, and he cannot stay healthy. This guy, he can't stay healthy in Ottawa, and he didn't even have. Well, he hit a lot. You're right, but he didn't have to on that team. You think he's going to play through any injuries when he's sitting there rotting in Buffalo? No chance.
Probably not.
Out. Get him out of here. He's a 10. He's a tier 26 next year when we go back and we look at this. So forget him.
Aaron, hence my hesitation to make the trade in the Cats League for him. I'm like, man, it's like I can see the talent. And I'm like, oh, dude, if he like shows up, this is a great trade for me. But he wants one of my stud goalies in a Cats League, and I'm like, if he gets hurt, my team could be terrible if I make this move and I don't have the studs at goalies. So I totally understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah, Norris is actually showing right now. You guys, I mean, it's not so bad. He's showing day to day. He's got a soft tissue injury since April 15th. I'm sure it's probably healed, but with him, you don't know. I mean,
he's not making an opening night. Forget it.
Yeah. Anytime the analysis says in Fantrax, he'll be a top line for top 6 minutes if he's healthy to be in a 25-26 season. But man, he'll give you a ton of face-off wins. He's really good at the dot, 54%. Great time on ice, 135 hits, 55 blocks as well, and then 35 points in 56 games and shooting 20%. Power play points at goals and assists. Game-winning goals 5. He does everything when he's on ice. He really, really does. But when is he gonna get healthy? He's only 26, so you just hope. You're still hoping, right? Hoping. Can he just stay healthy? He was actually drafted by the Sharks. Then he actually went to Ottawa. Now he's at Buffalo. That should tell you something. All the teams are like, yeah, I really just don't want to deal with that health issue. But man, the upside is there. He could be so freaking good.
What do we think about here as we jump into the final tier to finish out the show tonight? Tier 8. This is guys we're thinking going round 10 or later. Obviously, there's going to be some sleeper guys way, way late, but these are some guys, maybe here in that 10th round as you're kind of filling out that starting lineup and looking for a couple guys still in the mix here. Who are we liking out of this tier 8?
In tier 8, top to bottom, we're going Dylan Strome on the Caps, Rob Thomas on the shitty Blues, Brock Nelson on Colorado, Rossi, Minnesota. I don't like him. And Pierre-Luc Dubois on Washington as well. I would say the two Washington guys, they had outstanding seasons last year when they were chasing Ovi record. I always, I don't know. I'm just going to, every goal that he gets is going to pad the stats, but he's not on a mission. Gosh, I said the same thing last year that Washington wasn't going to get a playoff spot, and they just beat the wheels off everybody in the regular season. So I say this as knowing that I could eat my hat on this more than anything, but I just see regression on those two. They did very well. Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's played everywhere. He's been shuffled around, thinks he found a spot. He'll find something to get him off track. And I don't know. I just, again, I mean, we're talking about our last tier, so these guys are appropriately tiered for sure. I'm just a little shaky on him. Marco Rossi, I don't know. I don't know about this guy. He's one of those smaller stature guys. So there's a room for him, but does he have the superstar potential? Does he have the hands like some of the other guys do, the Patrick Kanes, again, some of these smaller guys? I'm just waiting on his potential. I think the other two possibly could jump a tier. That's Rob Thomas, as much as it pains me to say it. St. Louis is younger. They're faster than they were last year. They're very well coached. And then Brock Nelson, he played well in New York. He didn't quite hit it all stride on Colorado, but when he hits his full stride, I think we're going to see big numbers from him this year. So those are my two favorites out of that tier.
Yeah, and I'll talk about Brock Nelson for a second as we wrap up the pod here. I mean, look at the wings on the other side of him on the line too. Gabe Landeskog.
Mm-hmm.
He got some time in their playoffs and actually really, really good, right? He hadn't played for 3 years. I mean, JT, you and I have actually had him in our Dynasty League and in our cap Dynasty League and been hiding that cap of $7 million for a long time. And now Landeskog's actually back. Yeah, I think it will be worth the wait. I really, really do. He's a captain of that team, right? So, and then Val Nichushkin. So he went to player rehab. I mean, he was
10 times.
Yeah. So if you look at Brock Nelson, man, who he's got on either side of him, I mean, you could actually make a documentary out of that. And for many different reasons. But boy, if both Nichushkin and Landeskog, let's say, play 75 games, each one of them, then Brock Nelson's going to be a steal out of center position there for a high octane Colorado Avalanche offense. And you're probably going to be able to get Brock Nelson pick 120, 130, 140, somewhere around there. And he could play like a top 60 player. He really could. So that's a guy that I would say target for sure, especially as a center, third center. At around, you could reach for him, right? Maybe around 8, round 9, reach for him a little bit at like pick number 80 or 90, somewhere around there, because you feel so damn good about your team. That's how you could hit the home run. That's how I feel about Brock Nelson. So he just signed a 3-year deal, $22.5 million contract. Colorado back in June, so he's got 3 more years there. They're actually committed to him, and that top 6 is stacked. And he hopefully, I say injuries and also everything else permitting, I find him on power play 1. He'll be there because they just got injuries. They'll have them, that with that team they just will. So with him, Natchez and McKinnon and Nichushkin and Landeskog, Makar, I mean, there's gonna be points there. So I definitely like Brock Nelson in his situation.
Yeah, I love Nelson moving over from a pretty heavy defensive team who didn't shoot and score a ton over to the Avs.
Team, JT.
Yeah,
shit.
I mean, I like that call, Toast. I like that a lot. I just think he could be, and again, maybe a name that's not on top of mind for a lot of fantasy players because of where he's been prior to this. So I think that one could be a sneaky one. Aaron, any final thoughts as we wrap this thing up?
No, I mean, with every pod, I'm getting more and more excited. I mean, I can't wait to really transition into our betting advice as a secondary income. I mean, we did very well last year, fellas. We're going to spread that winning culture to the listeners. So you're definitely going to want to tune in. If you just hit one segment, hit our betting segment, because they are rock solid advice. We watch them live. We win as a team. We die as a team. So just come and join us for that. But every week we get closer to that puck drop, I just get more and more excited. I'm counting money in the bank. I'm taking loans out because I know I'm going to be able to pay them off. So it's an exciting time. I mean, 50 days, that's a lot, but it'll be here before you know it.
I love it. Yeah, well, we're going to get football started here, college right away here, and then we got NFL right after that. And, those first couple of weeks are like bam, 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 and then we're going to like, oh, it's go time. It's hockey time. We're gonna be all in the mix. It's gonna be fantastic. Toes, how about you? I'm definitely getting fired up for betting. We're getting around that corner here. We're gonna have to put in some hours, boys. Is looking at the preseason bets and what we're gonna do. We'll obviously have our preseason betting show that we always do to kind of get you going on who we think is gonna win the cup. Conference division, people. If there's wins, over unders, we like total points. We'll dive into a little bit of everything and see what we like. But Toast, how about you? Final thoughts?
So we have 6 weeks to the opener. 6 weeks. So we got to cover wings yet, and I think we'll just cover them in general. Maybe left wing, right wing, whatever. We'll just cover wingers in general. We got to do a betting show. We end up having to do another. We got to do a mock. I think we're going to do a Cats mock, where we may end up doing a Dynasty mock. And then I really like doing maybe our prediction show as well. So we got plenty of shows coming up. And Aaron, I'm going to put some pressure on you this year to make sure that you're able to make it and come over and stay at my place this year for opening night. We'll take the next day off of work for sure. We have to do that. And we had a live cast last year. And man, I'll tell you what, the live cast was fun. It was fun. We watched those 2 games, and we'll do the same thing again this week or this year, where the Hawks get their ass beat by the defending Stanley Cup champions, because it happens every freaking year. I don't know what's going on, but it's fine. That's fine. So looking forward to that. Can't wait, guys. So let's tune in next week. We're at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central next week. We're either going to go ahead and do another mock, or we're actually going to talk about some wingers. We'll decide, right? It's a little bit of secret.
Yeah, and if you're interested in joining us for our Around the Ice podcast league, listeners league, feel free to get a hold of us. Like I said, send a message over to us on Twitter. You can always jump in the show. You can email me, jtorange4@gmail.com, jtorange4@gmail.com, just like my Twitter handle, jtorange. You can get a hold of me that way if you're not on the Twitter or the X. That is another good way to get a hold of us. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. Make sure you check out all the other podcasts and stuff here on Fantasy and Frames. If you're into football, all kinds of stuff coming to you quick. Here as the season's getting ready to start, diving heavy into redraft. So I know a bunch of leagues coming up there tomorrow night. You want to check that out. We've got shows going all night long here on the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. So make sure you check those out as well. We appreciate everybody checking us out for tonight. We'll see you next week here on Around the Ice on Fantasy and Frames. See you next time.